this conversation with James Nestor and Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of the CEO, it just literally blew my mind. They talked about something most of us overlook when it comes to, and I practice breath work myself, and I'm trying to be more conscious of my breath, but how CO2 levels in indoor spaces are drastically impacting our mental performance. It's not just some random trivia, it's science that can change how you live, how you work, and how you think. Before we break this down, I just want to say that James Nestor is a research journalist. That's what he is. He's not a breath worker. He's not promoting breath work. He's just done so much research that he feels that we got to know this about the breath. So let's dive in.
Dioxide in the room you're in, which I guess is determined by how well ventilated it is, has a relationship with how much recycled air I take in. How?
Absolutely. And this, I learned all this after the book came out. I was talking to a pulmonologist who said, you really need to look into indoor CO2. I said, well, why? He said, that is a good way of determining how much of that air has been recycled. So I bought one of these, which is a carbon dioxide meter. And I've been recording our CO2 during this interview.
Jesus.
And if you are outside, it's about 418, depends where you are, 418, 19 parts per million CO2. That's healthy, right? Even though CO2 is going up, it's causing climate change. We all know that. But for breathing, that is perfectly healthy. Once you get into 800 parts per million, some studies have found that
Sorry, it's going up.
when they are testing people, when they're testing students, you see a 20% decline in test results just from 800. By the time you get to 1,000, you start suffering from things like eye irritation, sore throats, other issues. So we're probably breathing in every 1 in every 30 breaths that I'm breathing in is your breath or the cameraman's breath. By the time you get to 2,500, you're in really bad shape. 1 in every 17 breaths is a breath you're breathing from somebody else. So we have been told by authorities that we should only worry about levels that are up to 5,000 parts per million. That is completely false. There are over 18 studies that show levels over 800 into 1,000 can potentially cause problems with bone demineralization, kidney calcification, and chronic inflammation. And so just since we've been sitting in this interview, we started off at 700 and now we're at 1,100. And if we were to continue working in here for the next few hours, this could be up to 1,500, 1,700, which has been shown to have serious issues with cognitive function and with physical function.
That's very scary. And it calls for a redesign of this studio because, I mean, putting on the air conditioning, would that help? Because that would
No, it's recycling the same air unless that air is coming in from outside.
Does that air come from outside?
I don't think so. I think it's recycled. And a really scary study I read was a lot of schools are at 1,500 to 2,000. Several studies have found this. They have shown a 50% decrease in test results when students were exposed to air with that much CO2 in it. 50% decrease in test results from 1,500 to 2,000. I've recorded levels up to 4,000 and 5,000 in bars, in subways, and more.
Jesus.
Yeah, this isn't my hypothesis either. This is something I was told about a year after the book came out, and I've seen a lot of scientific studies since, and I sent some of those to your team just to show that this isn't something I'm making up.
The ones you sent to my team, I have some notes here I can pull up. In one study of 24 employees, cognitive scores were 50% lower when the participants were exposed to 1,400 ppm of CO2 compared with 550 ppm during a working day. We're nearly there. So I am 50% dumber because You've been breathing so much.
I start to, and I highly recommend nobody get one of these.
Why?
Because you go crazy wherever
Really?
you are. On an airplane, I've seen 2,700 parts
Really?
per million, and you wonder why you feel like crap after a long flight. And sometimes it goes up and then it comes down because they put in more oxygen. But usually when the plane is warming up, it's 2,600, which is why a lot of people just immediately go to sleep. I think maybe they're doing it on purpose to mellow everyone out. But if you think about cognitive function, I mean, this is a 50% decrease in test results is insane. And to think you have kids in these schools taking tests to go into college and all of the air is recycled. I mean, it's just, when I mentioned at the beginning of our chat here that the modern world is conspiring to make us unhealthy, I think this is an example. And from what I've seen, very few people are paying any attention to this, and it's real. You're reading the scientific studies over there. This isn't stuff that I'm feeding to you.
It almost sounds like I'm smoking. It sounds like I'm inhaling, because we talk about people have got to smoke outside to keep us healthy. So we changed the laws in this country so you can't smoke indoors.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least smoking is fun and it gives you a buzz, right? CO2 is, you can't smell it. It's really hard to sense it. It's invisible, and yet it's always there. Any outside environment, you don't have to worry about it. But indoor environments, especially in the buildings we've created now that don't have windows, I can't tell you how many hotels, sometimes really nice hotels, I go to open the windows. Like, my God, they've glued the windows shut, right? And overnight, I watch this just ticking up. 100 points every couple hours. And you wonder why you wake up feeling so much worse than you did when you first came in there. So this is real stuff. And in a room like this, there's nothing you can do because the HVAC system has been designed to just recycle the air over and over and over again. My hunch, and I'm probably wrong about this, in the next few years, people are going to start requiring, bosses of companies are going to require that there be fresh air for their employees, because I think you're going to see big problems with performance. I mean, even just sitting here, now that you know this,
I feel tired.
so some of that's a placebo effect, sure, but
I felt great before you said it.
Don't
I'm
you
like,
feel
whoa.
a little like warm and tired? So take my word for it. Do not travel with one of these. It will make you a complete neurotic. I'm doing it because I want to document it. I'm going to be updating future editions of the book with some of this information because I didn't know about this when the book came out. But I think people really need to know about this and start asking hotels, can I open the window? Start out before you rent an office. Can I open the window? Like, it's that easy. You just need to open it a little bit. Makes a huge difference just opening it a little bit.
People can't see this, but we sit in a room here and we like air seal it for sound reasons.
Yeah.
So we don't have any windows in here. And we actually moved this. This is a replica of my old kitchen, which is on the top floor of this building. So the reason which had this wonderful, huge balcony over there that you could open the whole side of the that side of the building and walk outside into the fresh air. But we moved it down here and made this little chamber because of sound reasons. I do sit in here for sometimes 9 hours a day. So there's been an occasion, a few times, where I've done 3 podcasts in a day. And I feel that, now you've said it, I do feel incredibly fatigued. I'm sure it's because I'm talking and, having really, sort of challenging my brain a little bit. But I can only wonder, if the studies are correct and there's a 50% variance in my cognitive scores, what would happen if I found a way to get oxygen into this room? More oxygen and the carbon dioxide out.
I promise you'd feel better.
I'm going to figure out
how
to do
much
that.
better? Who knows?
Yeah.
Depends on the day, depends on the person. I promise you'd feel better. I promise your brain would be operating and functioning better than it is now.
We're not meant to be in 4 white walls trapped inside, are we? And this is the misalignment problem.
Never. This is that misalignment problem. Even 100 years ago, right? Every building had windows that you could open. Even 50 years ago, almost every building had windows you could open. But now the standard protocol is, because it's easier to heat and easier to cool, right? You're creating this bubble. which is why if you go into like a Walmart, one of those stores, there's no windows, there's no anything. You just got blue light in this bubble. You can control the environment much more easily. But what is it doing to people's health? So I'm the guy that asks for a hotel room, doesn't have a window, and you get really funny looks until you start traveling with one of these and start reading these studies, and you realize how important it is.
So interesting. One of the things that I've really taken from this is when I wrote my book, I always go to the jungle to write. I literally write the book in nature. I've just realized that I'm actually increasing my cognitive performance by going and sitting down by a lake every year and writing versus doing it inside an office. So when I reflect on tasks that require real cognitive performance, honestly, like having an interview conversation or writing a book or any sort of deep sort of intellectual cognitive tasks, it's so important that those rooms and those spaces are well ventilated, or else
And the right light.
and
So
the right light.
those two things I think are very important, and I think we're going to see so much of this changing in our culture soon because people are going to ask for it and they're going to feel the difference. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons why you're thinking more clearly. It's not just the lack of CO2, right, in the environment. It's the natural light. Your nature itself is just so inspiring and relaxing. But this is one component of it, without a doubt.
Let's pause and really reflect on this for a second. And first of all, yeah, I got one of these. We spend the majority of our time indoors. We're in offices, we're in schools, homes. We're breathing in this stale, recycled air. And it turns out that this invisible thing called CO2 could be cutting our mental performance in half. Think about that. You might blame being tired on stress or a lack of sleep or too much screen time, but it could just be the air that you're breathing. Here's what's actually crazy is many schools have CO2 levels that he was saying of 1,500 to 2,500 parts per million, and that studies are showing that these students are performing 50% worse on tests under those conditions. 50%? Like all the schools and the hotels and the hospitals, they should all know that they should be having proper ventilation. It's a huge difference, especially when those scores can shape their entire future. And it doesn't stop there. Like we're saying, airplanes, even modern offices, all are designed to trap this air for efficiency. Like, so you could have better heating or better cooling. But what about our health and brain function? This reminds me of how essential breathing or breath work is. It's not just in terms of calming the nervous system, but in reconnecting with the core vitality of what keeps us alive. When we bring more awareness to our breath and our environment, it's like we're unlocking the next level of clarity, that creativity, and having a sense of well-being just to feel good during the day. So I want to challenge you. When was the last time you really thought about the air you're breathing? When did you stop and take a slow, deep breath and feel the difference it made? Start paying attention, open a window, get outside more, and see how it shifts your energy and focus. You might be surprised just how powerful these small changes can be. Drop a comment with your success story after you listen to this.